What's up, my brothers in iron? Today I'm bringing you another upper body workout, and I gotta say, this one is truly special. Not only in terms of exercise selection, but with the difficulty. So I strongly recommend you all give it a shot. So, we're starting off with the Swiss bar Larsen press. Now, the neutral grip in itself is already at least 30 pounds less compared to regular bench. Then you strip off the leg drive, and that's another 10%. So in total, you got something that's still high force production, yields crazy good carryover to any horizontal press, but you're getting more out of less weight. And so this, my friends, is how you really build strength. Use harder styles and get humbled. Trust me, you're not going to lose the technique to perform on the way you've always been pressing for all these years. Instead, you'll acquire that brute force.
Nice! That was way easier than I thought. I was pretty sure I was going to misgroove it with the wrist, but man, that is nice.
You know what? Screw it. Let's try 325. All right, check this out. 325, which I'm so freaking happy with.
Yeah! You knew I had it, you see?
Now that's what I call a solid training max. Remember, it doesn't have to be RP10 grinders every single week. Like, that's a good way of overreaching quickly. Just work up to 3 top singles and call it a day for the heavy stuff. Then you move on to bodybuilding, which is what I'm gonna do right now. Let's get this hypertrophy work in, and what's cool is that we now know exactly what weights need to be used because we hit a top single. See, that's the importance of going heavy at the start of your session. You auto-regulate your training automatically, and there's no guesswork. You use 70% of that top number, and you know it's not an all-out grinder, which ensures you have reps in reserve, but you're also in the correct intensity zone for what is efficient. Your technique won't break down, and recovery is a lot better when you're doing sets of 10 as opposed to 5s or 6s, which you don't actually have to do if you did singles beforehand. And what's great about not overshooting your numbers is that it's easier to organize your training. So what you're seeing here, I got at least 3 reps in reserve for every set. Therefore, next week, I can drop it down to around 2 if I so choose to and microload a little bit. And so I'm not going to have as many plateaus with this variation, which allows me to keep it in my exercise rotation that much longer. Whereas if I was constantly going to failure, I guarantee things wouldn't go as smoothly as you're seeing right now, not to mention the excessive fatigue that's generated.
Yo, that was freaking easy. Crazy that that's even 70%, but hey. When you base things off training maxes, you'll find you have reps in reserve.
So overall, the pressing was awesome, but now you may notice I'm doing pull-ups. Why push-pull? Because it's better for strength development. Truth is, when I was doing all the presses followed by the back work, that's not as good for lifting the most amount of weight. And so alternating back and forth gives you that longer rest time, if you will. Now, you may notice I'm using a super wide grip to the point where I'm actually grabbing on to the diagonal position. This is probably the hardest grip I've ever used because I never train it. All my pull-ups are done with a medium to close grip, so very lat biased, whereas this is the furthest thing from that. You can see the muscles being activated. It's teres major, rhomboids, traps. Not that those muscles aren't strong, but look at the arm path. Look at my freaking humerus. Not to mention the fact that I'm actually using a full range of motion, which 90% of guys don't do on this variation. They'll bring their eyes to the bar so they get leveled, which is fine if you just want to get a contraction, but not go beyond that, whereas I'm doing the exercise properly. However, I do lose tightness, but I don't care about that because I just trust that if I'm doing full range of motion, the back is the prime mover, which it is. And so I'm going to work these in for longer because I'm freaking weak. I'm surprised I only did 50 pounds as opposed to 90 pounds, but it is what it is. We all got those positions with unfavorable leverages that are also untrained, and this is what I'll be focusing on because why not? Getting more out of less weight on another pull-up.
Pull-ups are hard, especially with wide grip.
So after the vertical pull, we're doing a vertical push. And I'm really happy with this because I did 3 sets of 5 with 175. You know, I was planning on doing 165 for today, but I actually put 2 10s on each side by accident as opposed to doing the 5. And when I did that, I was like, yo, this is moving well. So I just stayed to it. So this mistake was a blessing, and next workout, I'm gonna stick to this load and try to work up to doing sets of 6 and then eventually 3x10 with 175. Could you imagine how psychotic that would be in terms of just getting stronger at any press with the boldest shoulder gains to come for it? So this is probably the best I've ever performed for secondary work, to be honest with you. And I don't know if it's because I took that little break, because usually it's just press, press, press. But here I'm feeling good. So overhead press, man, truly surprised me. And I'm just excited for what my new 1 rep max is going to be moving forward. So yeah, then we alternate back to a horizontal pull. Chose the seated cable row using my home ghetto setup. 185, man, that is some good weight, because remember, there's only a single pulley. So in those commercial gyms, you usually have 2 pulleys. So don't think for a second this is the equivalent of doing a 185 barbell row. It more so resembles rowing somewhere in the mid 200s. And it's all upper back, as you can see. This feels absolutely phenomenal. You can see the contractions on every rep, and the pump was just through the roof. I love this because it's easy on the lower back. And these days, I don't do anything to stress my spinal rectors further. That's dedicated to my lower body sessions, which feature a boatload of good mornings and deadlifts, which should be very clear just by looking at their appearance. I can't tell you how many compliments I've been getting on Instagram and YouTube. So I definitely corrected my lower back weakness, I gotta say. Now it's really the hamstrings that are starting to be a problem, which I never thought was gonna be the situation, but that's what it is. That's why my system, man, it's about blending and training what you suck at. And here again, I chose an upper back focus row as opposed to lats, because I feel like my width is definitely on point. Anyway, here's a ring push down, which is a unique variation that I haven't seen anybody do, but the premise is very simple. We're focusing on external rotation by bringing the arms as far back as possible. So there's a shoulder extension element, and our elbows are allowed to flare. This, my friends, activates the long head of the triceps, and you can literally see it popping out. So it doesn't always have to be through overhead extensions. On this final set, I do incorporate that as like a failure drop set method, just to get the way to stretch. But yeah, the alignment makes a big difference. And what I found is that with long head focused push downs, you have to drop the load considerably. So here I'm only doing 50 pounds. And even then, the form could have been a lot better because I'm already fatigued by this point. But I can assure you that the contraction was psychotic. And by the time you get to doing these, you can only get a few rests before you just gas out. So that should be further evidence that you are being stimulated a lot. Like, this is not just a lateral head way of building your tris. So try it off to finish off your arms, and I'm sure you'll be very happy. So with that said, we move on to the final exercise, easy bar curls. 3 sets of 6. First set was with 117, and that's a 1 rep PR, which means the biceps are getting stronger, and muscle and strength are tightly correlated. Remember, I'm not doing 1 rep maxes and triples or anything like that. I'm doing basic compound movements, just progressively adding weight when possible, and those little additions add up. And you know what? I think the biceps are growing. So I'm going to continue trusting the basics and embracing slow progression, because at the end of the day, I've been training for many years now, and I know that significant bicep improvements won't be made instantaneously. It's going to take some months to level up, and that's what you're seeing as I'm documenting everything. So yeah, last set. Honestly, really happy with these curls. If you notice, I tend to go to failure, especially on the final set. I like to do rest pause. You don't have to do like multiple rounds of it, but just one all-out grinder where you really push intensity and allow for a little bit of cheating. Not that you swing the weight, but you bend the back a bit. In my opinion, is perfectly fine, and you still feel the biceps like crazy. So there you go. Brutal intensity workout. Absolutely loved it, and I hope you try it out. Like, please let me know how you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next training video.